Among the wide variety of recognizable traditional quilt designs, Baltimore Album quilts have a popularity entirely their own. Baltimore Album quilts originated in Baltimore, Maryland in the 1840s, and as their popularity increased, it spread to the surrounding regions. As a port city, Baltimore and its quilt makers had access through trade goods to new fabrics, colors, and materials which were then used in their quilts. Traditionally, these quilts feature applique blocks in a variety of designs, including floral elements, wreaths, other botanicals, patriotic themes, ships, birds, and other symbolic motifs. The complexity of the applique designs varied by the quilt maker's skills. In the early 1980s, quilter Ely Sinkowitz helped revive interest in this unique applique style through her books, classes, patterns, and even quilt shows. In Ely's words, an album is a collection on a theme. Therefore, in an album quilt, the blocks generally differ from one another while maintaining a similarity of feeling. Baltimore Album quilts continue to be made today by quilters from around the world. They honor the traditions of past quilt makers while creating intricate applique designs that reflect their own styles, themes, and histories. Let's take a look at some of the Baltimore Album quilts from the museum's collection. Conway Album, I'm Not From Baltimore, by Irma Gale Hatcher, so named because Irma lived in Conway, Arkansas, finished in 1992. Irma Gale mentions how she wanted more than just the traditional style of setting Baltimore Album quilt blocks side by side, so she added a little more structure with a center medallion and then 12 blocks surrounding it, and then the outer borders. This quilt took Irma Gale 1 year to make, and during that time she also wrote out the patterns to publish a book so other quilters could make a similar quilt. Baltimore Remembered by Eileen Stannis, Michigan, finished in 1996. Eileen learned needle turn applique in a class with Ely Sinkowitz. Most of the blocks from this quilt are based on patterns from Ely's Baltimore Album books. Eileen tried to use colors and fabrics similar to ones she had seen in antique album quilts. Garden Maze by Irma Gale Hatcher, Arkansas, finished in 1998. This quilt took Irma Gale 2.5 years to complete, including 7 months for hand quilting it. Many of the flowers shown in this quilt represent places where Irma Gale and her family have lived, from Kansas sunflowers to Missouri primroses, Michigan cherries, Arkansas pansies, and trumpet flowers for her grandmother's home in Texas. The balls on top of the fence design around the outer edges of this quilt reflect the cement balls on some of the fences in Conway, Arkansas. This appliqued stair-step border was the most challenging applique Irma Gale had ever done. With You by Miyuki Hamaba from Japan, finished in 2009. The inspiration for Miyuki's quilt came from a Baltimore Album quilt she saw in an exhibition years ago. That quilt prompted her to change her style from hand piecing to trying hand applique in creating her own Baltimore Album quilt. This quilt took 2.5 years to create. Seasons of Life, designed by Sandra Mullen, quilted by Chris Spray, California, completed in 2018. This quilt was designed in the Baltimore Album medallion style. Most of the designs are original, and a few blocks have historical origins. Many of the elements of design are similar to designs found in both contemporary and antique Baltimore Album quilts in the style published in many books by Ely Sinkowitz. This quilt took 3 years to design and hand applique, and another year to machine quilt.